Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be focusing on the Egyptian national projects. Now, the projects have been going on for a few years. We're going to be talking about the next steps to be taken after the main infrastructure national projects have taken place. Also, the preparations for the COP27 summit. They will be taking place later in November in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. But before we start discussing this file, let's check out some of the stories making the news today. And we'll start off with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who met today with Saudi Arabia's King Salman in Riyadh, where they discussed boosting military and security cooperation and coordination between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. President el-Sisi stressed on the importance of uniting Arabs to face the challenges in the region and said that Egypt will not allow the security and stability of the Gulf states to be compromised, and that security in the Gulf is part of Egypt's own security. El-Sisi last visited Saudi Arabia in May 2019, where he took part in an emergency Arab summit in Mecca after attacks by the Houthi militia in Yemen, including on Saudi oil tankers off the UAE coast earlier in the same month. El-Sisi and Salman also agreed on the necessity of boosting joint efforts to fight terrorism, as well as supporting the international community's effort to reach political settlements to the crises in the region in a way that maintains the unity of these countries' territories and their people's wealth. For his part, King Salman expressed his appreciation for Egypt's support on different issues and that Saudi Arabia is keen to boost bilateral relations between the two countries. President el-Sisi arrived on Tuesday in Riyadh, where he met also with the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The president told the Saudi Crown Prince that Egypt will not allow the security and stability of the Gulf countries to be compromised, stressing that it's an integral part of Egypt's security. And he expressed the appreciation for the warm reception and noted the strong brotherly ties between Egypt and Saudi people who share a common history and a single destiny. Joining us now over the phone to shed more light on this visit, we're joined by Ambassador Mohammad Hagizi, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Hagizi, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Hani, how are you?
I'm very well, sir. Your Excellency, now talking about this visit by President el-Sisi to Saudi Arabia. The last visit was in May 2019. Now, this visit comes maybe a couple of weeks after the President's visit to Kuwait as well. What is the significance and the importance of such a visit in such a critical time in the political life and spectrum of the international community as a whole?
Indeed, Hani, it is a very critical moment for the international community, where the international scenery is in a full disarray, and a military invasion to Ukraine, as well as fall down in the stock exchange. The prices are going up. Oil and gas, energy security is under a lot of pressure. Today, President Joe Biden of the United States calling for boycotting imports from Russia. Russia is threatening Europe, where 40% of their natural gas and 60% of oil crudes are coming from Russia. Things are really going very difficult also in commodities, and the value chains are cut off. Many of the threats internationally has impact on the Gulf security as well as the regional security in general, where the two capitals, Cairo and Riyadh, has to compare notes and to see eye to eye how to move forward to further enhance their security and the regional security, where the Arab region is totally dependent on the coordination between Cairo and Riyadh. And definitely the Arab League is invited also to think about the agenda of their summit, so that they can face the challenges that are caused by the continuous disturbance and fighting in the region, as well as the disarray in the general scenery of the international community, where we are threatened to a deepen confrontation, where the impact on the third world and small nations are immense. Of course, oil prices are going up, gas as well is shooting, so one has to see how can we together, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, control the situation, as well as seeking each other's support to safeguard the Arab national security, as well as the Gulf security and the Red Sea security, where, as we see, certain competition are taking place to find a logistic hub for certain powers in the region. I have to say that this is a very important moment that requires the two leaders to sit together and compare notes and find way out to keep Arab national security afloat in a very critical time.
Ambassador Hagizi, I mean, you've mentioned many different topics. When we're talking about national security and stability and national interest, we're talking about the price of oil, we're talking about the security of the Red Sea, we're talking about the implications of the Russian-Ukraine conflict. We're also talking about the Houthi situation in Yemen, which, I mean, in terms of priority, which would be the highest on the agenda in terms of cooperation and real coordination between not just Saudi Arabia and Egypt, but all the Gulf countries?
Yes, as you said it, the Gulf security is under a threat for a couple of years now. The continuous role of Houthi in bringing the situation in Yemen to such an escalation is another topic, but allow me, Hani, to say that this very particular visit, though it might cover other regional issues and, of course, bilateral issues, but it will remain a strategic visit to face the challenge that the current situation on the international arena is posing on the national security of both countries and the region.
Your Excellency, now, what is the International Defense Museum, what is the importance of Egypt's participation in this museum?
You mean the defense fair that is taking place in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Of course, coordinating defense and security measures, as well as discussing strategies to safeguard the Gulf security, as well as the Red Sea security, is among the many issues. Bilateral ties between Egypt and Saudi Arabia is diversified, and in the heart of it also you find the security and the defense coordination, particularly in this volatile time where you need really to feel secure in the region, where you need to seek the best scenario for our regional security. And I'm sure that the threat is not far away. Gulf security is an integral part of the energy security worldwide. The passageway to the Suez Canal and the straits and the security of the Red Sea is under pressure and threat. So the whole situation that have started maybe by the invasion of Russia to Ukraine will require us to adjust agenda and to talk together about the way forward, how to support each other economy, how can we sustain the pressure caused by the destabilized situation in oil prices as well as the gas. Saudi Arabia is one of the pillars of world energy security, and I'm sure that what we have witnessed today, the United States have sent an important delegation to Venezuela to secure their oil supplies, as well as and to lift some sanctions so that they allow it to replace the Russian supplies if it is boycotted, as well as the Saudi, where we have heard that President Joe Biden might even visit the Saudi Arabia so that they can discuss further how to control the supplies if in case the Russian supplies has been stopped by sanctions, or deliberately by the Russian leadership. I don't think that we can really talk individual about the situation. We have to talk to each other. We have to compare notes, and we have to seek regional security, not individual security. And this is what President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stressed about the security in the Gulf as an integral part of Egypt's national security, as well as the security in the Gulf. As I said, there is certain powers that is trying to find a logistic hub in nearby areas that might threaten the stability of the Red Sea, something that is not really conducive to the overall regional security. So we have to be very careful. We are facing a very critical time ahead, and we need the two pillars of the Arab stability, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, to talk and to compare notes, and I think that is the heart of this very important strategic visit.
Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned a potential visit by President Biden to Saudi Arabia. With all these consultations and visits, do you think it could have any sort of implications on the Iranian nuclear agreement, since it involves many different parties, including Russia, and also the connection between Iran and the Houthis in Yemen? Could any of these things have an implication on a progress or not for the Iranian nuclear agreement?
Although it is a very important file and it will remain on the agenda all the time, but this kind of visit, the one that I mentioned, the possible visit suggested for President Biden to Saudi Arabia, is exactly related to the Ukrainian crisis. I don't think the Iranian agenda is far, but all the attention is given now to how to confront the Russian invasion to Ukraine. I think the West in general and the United States on the leadership will remain on the coming few months concentrating more to the Russian invasion to Ukraine. The visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi today, the suggested visit of President Biden to Saudi Arabia, all falls in the center into this Ukrainian crisis and the impact it has on our regional security. And for the American administration visit, or President Biden's suggested visit to Saudi Arabia, will remain in securing oil supplies to stabilize the market as much as they can if a boycott to Russia occurs, and if Russia also decided unilaterally to stop its supplies, which will destabilize the whole European markets as well as the international trade in oil, which will be a threat that the American administration is trying to secure from major supplies like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and others.
Ambassador Mohammad Hagizi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to more news making it today. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi delegated the Minister of Defense and Military Production, General Commander of the Armed Forces Mohammad Zaki, to lay wreath on a memorial of the Armed Forces martyrs within the framework of the Egyptian and Armed Forces celebrations for Martyrs' Day and Veteran Warrior Day.
الأسود حين تذود عن الحدود، فمن يكونون وإلى أي جيش ينتمون؟ إلى جيش مصر، فمن هو جيش مصر؟ هو أقدم الجيوش وأعرقها، وأسطورة المعارك في كل العصور والأزمان.
الجيش المصري ده أسطورة وطنية، زي ما بقول كده، أسطورة وطنية.
فمصر العريقة تستحق أن يبذل من أجلها الغالي والنفيس. فتحيا مصر، تحيا مصر، تحيا مصر.
And marking the International Women's Day, First Lady Intisar Sisi expressed praise and appreciation to the Egyptian women today. The First Lady said it is for their sacrifices that Egypt will stay great, and she noted that throughout history, Egyptian women have been contributors to national glories through being devoted mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters.
تحية تقدير خاصة للمرأة المصرية العظيمة، بنات وسيدات النيل وصانعات السعادة والنماء، عظيمات مصر. إن تطور ورقي أي مجتمع إنما يقاس بدرجة تطوره الثقافي والأخلاقي والمعرفي، ويرتبط ارتباطا وثيقا بتطور ثقافة ووعي المرأة ومساهماتها الفاعلة في بناء المجتمع وتنميته. تستمر مسيرة كفاح المرأة لتحصل على حق الانتخاب وممارسة الحقوق السياسية كاملة، وقبل ذلك الحق في التعليم وشغل أي من المناصب والوظائف العامة، وصولا لهذا اليوم الذي نرى فيه المرأة في جميع ميادين العمل الوطني. إن المرأة المصرية أثبتت جيلا بعد جيل وعلى مدار التاريخ المصري الطويل أنها طرف أساسي في معادلة الوطن.
اليوم الدولي للمرأة 8 مارس.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, focusing our attention on tonight's topic, let's check out this report regarding Egypt spearheading the national projects within the Sustainable Development Goals in line with Egypt's Vision 2030. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Egypt has spearheaded a large number of mega-national projects to serve sustainable development goals and give momentum to the Egyptian economy. Egypt's achievements in the national mega-projects are meant to accelerate the march of development in order to attain SDGs. The new Suez Canal is a landmark project accomplished by the Egyptian government. The project aims at boosting hard currency earnings for the Egyptian national income, increasing the double parts of the Suez Canal to 50%, shortening transit time from 18 hours to 11 hours for the southbound convoy, and shrinking the waiting time for vessels to become 3 hours at most instead of 8 to 11 hours, the matter that will cut down on trip costs and make the Suez Canal more attractive for ship owners. The government has also launched the new administrative capital project, 35 kilometers east of Cairo, with an aim of giving momentum to the Egyptian economy through incentivizing development projects. President Sisi has given the green light to the $45 billion project in 2015. The 170,000 Fadan capital is a different type of urban community that will be smart, safe, sustainable, and environmentally friendly. The city is integrated with designs of buildings, neighborhoods, and landscape. To ensure air quality, the city will be equipped with air pollution sensors, whilst feature a green river, an unprecedented green space in Egypt. The city is also planned to be a high-tech hub via having the country's first technological knowledge city, similar to the Smart Village, to host research, innovation, and entrepreneurial centers in the fields of advanced digital technologies. Meanwhile, Egypt received a Guinness World Records certificate on the Rod al-Farag Access Bridge passing over the Nile for being the widest suspension bridge in the world at a width of 67.36 meters. The Armed Forces Engineering Authority and Arab Contractors Company joined forces to set up the bridge, the largest cable-stayed bridge in the world. As many as 4,000 engineers, technicians, and other workers have contributed to the construction of the bridge at a total cost of 5 billion Egyptian pounds. Egypt has also given the go-ahead to several clean, new and renewable energy projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in line with the Sustainable Development Goals on ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and tonight we're joined here in the studio by Dr. Tamer, Rady, head of the Faculty of Business at Ain Shams University. Dr. Rady, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleased to be here.
Dr. Rady, now, first of all, we've been talking many times about the Egyptian national mega projects. Now, we've been talking about it for years. We've seen all the work on the infrastructure, the roads, the axes, the bridges, the electrical power plants, everything. Now, is now the time to actually start seeing the fruit of these national mega projects? Is there another stage, a different nature of national mega projects that Egypt should be implementing and embarking on?
When any nation embarks on national and mega projects, there are always short-term gains and there are long-term gains. Now, we can all feel now the short-term gains. For example, commuting times, time wasted driving around. Everybody now is recognizing that probably you have saved 30%, in some instances up to 50% of your commuting time due to the new roads. You can feel something like really fast, like the ability to choose to live in one of the 21 new cities that were established and getting populated really, really fast. Now, that's a short-term thing that you would feel it right away. You would feel also the impact of spending on those mega projects in alleviating poverty, in reducing unemployment. Those are, relatively speaking, short-term goals that we have witnessed already. We have witnessed also some of the benefits in terms of all of that reflected on a larger economic growth rate. Now, there are the long-term projects. When investors start looking at the infrastructure being built, all right, so you have modified within 3 years to 4 years the whole electrical grid. Gave it a complete new life, a complete new capacity, and you're ready to export electricity after Egypt has witnessed shortage of electricity during the periods 2012, 13, 14, and 15. That's a remarkable transformation. Now, that's good for industries. To turn into more aggressive manufacturing, you need energy. You have seen the ports, the new ports, several new ports. You have seen the mega roads connecting those roads, north, south, east, west. All of those together, in the long term, are attractive to investors. And those are the long-term goals. You need more investment, more manufacturing, and you're going to reap that. You're heading there, definitely. That's what investing in infrastructure does.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Rady, you talked about getting the foreign investor interested to invest here in Egypt, and we've been talking about all these the transformational facelifts, let's call it that, within different sectors here in Egypt. Now, a couple of years ago, we've witnessed the coronavirus pandemic, and we've been saying that, well, it has its own effect on not just the Egyptian economy, but the global economy. Nowadays, we're talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, and yes, this will have its own effect on the global economy, including the Egyptian economy as well. But there will always be some sort of a conflict or some sort of a pullback towards any developing economies. Should we not worry about any of these things and just really focus on going forward regardless of what's going on inside or outside of Egypt? Or are these things, let's call it an unexpected, unfortunate turn of events?
Well, we have to worry, because worrying makes you prepare. But I would say, you know, in regards to this, you know, Egypt has been going very well in its economic reform program. If we go back to 2016, you will find that the initial seeds of what happened, liberating the dollar, the exchange rates, restructuring subsidies, and freeing the roads for private investors and local investors. All this part of the structural reform when it comes to fiscal and monetary policy have actually played a huge role in absorbing the impact of COVID-19, coupled, of course, with some aggressive fiscal and monetary policies that we've talked about so many different times in here. So that reduced the impact. Similarly, when you look at the war between Ukraine and Russia, at the very first look, you would get really alarmed, because when it comes to wheat, Egypt imports about 85% of its wheat from Russia and Ukraine. Egypt imports about 73% of its corn flour, of sunflower seeds,
yes.
Sunflower oil from Russia and Ukraine. And that would have a great impact. But then again, you look what happened during the last 2-3 years. Egypt has embarked on building 50 new silos, large silo projects over 17 governorates, so that the strategic inventory of such important and vital commodities can last you for 8 and 9 months. So you have to say, well, thank you that you have looked, anticipated, that the world is full of trouble, that strategic commodities can have some problems, and that you have went ahead and built all those silos, and then when the war occurred, now we're very thankful. Second, we have made a huge improvement when it comes to fiscal discipline, government expenditures, that is, budget deficit. Budget deficit has remarkably decreased and has been always within what the government has targeted. We have achieved more than the IMF expected for us, and we have been expecting about 5%, and actually you're expected now, you know, based on what happened within the first 6 months of the government fiscal year, you were growing at 9%, an amazing number. So then at the end of the year, you probably average a 6% growth rate, which is much higher than what international institutions have forecasted. And hence, there are probably elements in which you can use, there are instruments that you can use, and there are resources that you can rely on in absorbing the shock of such an increase in commodity price. Fuel prices, over 50% increase in such a small period, and expected to climb even further. But on the other hand side, you have had your natural gas exploration, you are now exporting gas. You're a gas exporter after being an importer, and what the bad that comes up over from the one side is probably compensated by the good coming from the other side. So I'm all confident that yes, you can overcome that, but the good thing is we were prepared.
Well, talking about the preparation and the sort of compensation of such unfortunate events, would you say that the international community now suffering from the repercussions of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, are they reluctant to invest abroad, elsewhere, maybe find other sources to import gas? I mean, you've mentioned the Zohr gas field, the natural gas we have, and we have factories for liquefying the natural gas as well. So do you think that it would be a good opportunity and Egypt would constitute a fertile soil for more foreign investors, especially during what's happening? Or do you think it would have the opposite sort of effect? Countries would be reluctant to get their money out of their domestic projects?
Well, you have to look at any of those events from, there is nothing black and white. You have to look at the both pictures. There's the good, there's the bad. Now, usually when the world economy sneezes, developing nations catch a flu. So the impact is like a tidal wave. It starts little in Western Europe, in America. Usually it works from America to Europe, and then it reaches developing nations in which there are ripple effects. The waves are magnified. Usually that happens because your exports tend to decrease a little bit, and then your tourism decreases, and foreign direct investment. You want to count your losses, so you're not going to take risk. And what is the worst thing that can happen to a nation? Well, you have a natural disaster or a war. And now, what happens if both occur at the same time? COVID and then the Ukraine-Russian war. So that's what the world is suffering from now. They didn't really have the time to recover from the COVID impact, and they are now into the more logistical pain and more supply chain pain, and then more shortage of commodities, increase in the oil prices, which slows down growth in Western Europe and in America. So does that constitute any good thing for us as well? Well, yes. On the other hand side, you're exporting natural gas, you've got the liquidation factories in here, and you've got an enormous resource of gas that you can use. So one bad thing might be a little bit of an impact on foreign direct investment, an impact because of the increase in oil prices, but on the other side, you can compensate that by exporting more gas, and Europe would be eager to get more of your gas, definitely within the shortage of Russian exports.
Yes. Well, whenever we talk about the national mega projects, people automatically start thinking of the bridges and the tunnels and the factories and the industrial zones. However, there's another kind of national mega projects, such as the digitalization of all the different industries within all the different sectors that are the cornerstones of the Egyptian economy. And it might even prove a little bit more difficult than getting two bricks together, cementing two bricks together, or digging a tunnel, which is really dealing with the human capital and the employees. How long do you think such a process of changing the culture, change a way of life of the whole society, the Egyptian population, into knowing how to get their work done, carry on and get all the day-to-day life procedures and transactions digitally?
Well, digital transformation is the name of the game all over the world now. Nobody would ever doubt what digital transformation is going to achieve in terms of economic efficiency, in reducing time wasted to get your paperwork done. And you'd see major things, such as renewing your license. Now they send you a car up to your house. It's digitally equipped to renew your license, pay your everything, your tickets and everything underneath your house. That saves you a lot of time. That's the simple way to put it. But then, when networks talk to each other, government networks, when, for example, the Ministry of Justice talks with the taxes, talks with banks, when you connect all those together, building that major database makes life much easier and makes the word financial inclusion much bigger. So then government taxes would improve and transactions can be faster. And then integrating the informal sector into the formal one would be achieved. So all of those are steps towards something that's really good for the economy, something that's really efficient. Now that's on the one side of digital transformation. When it comes to sustainable projects, Egypt has been very keen. While you have built a whole lot of conventional electric stations, and you have also went into building the largest sun plants, solar energy, in Aswan, the Bimban factories.
Yes.
An amazing project. You have been building wind factories everywhere, wind generating electricity. And then when you look at those two, government has a target. They want to increase the percentage of sustainable energy within the next few years, 2030 up to 2060. There is a government plan to do that, and that's incredibly important. There is also another one, major projects, another type of major projects, saving on water. Lining the canals, 20,000 kilometers of canals that were not touched since Muhammad Ali the Great have dug them. And that costs over probably 50 billion cubic meters of wasted water. That's a huge amount of water. So you're conserving on resources like what? By renewing 20,000 kilometers. Now, that's as important, if not even more important, than building 5,000 kilometers of roads within the last few years.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the sustainable development goals and really turning into an environmentally friendly industries and a green economy, Egypt is also prepping to host the COP27 summit in November in Sharm el-Sheikh. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
In November 2022, Egypt will be hosting the COP27, the UN Climate Change Conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, on behalf of African nations, marking a turning point in global solidarity on climate action and addressing the adverse impacts of climate change on the world as a whole. This is undoubtedly a not-to-be-missed opportunity for Egypt, not only to advance its climate action, but also to speed up the implementation of its Vision 2030 strategy that is well aligned with the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Egypt's Vision 2030 has placed equity, human development, risk reduction, adaptation and resilience building at the heart of its priorities. This in addition to mainstreaming sustainability considerations into the national policy framework to ensure reducing poverty and inequality as well as promoting gender equality. Preparing for COP27 can take place across a number of pillars to serve the National Development Agenda. In 2015, Egypt submitted to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change its intended nationally determined contributions, where it emphasized its need for international support and finance, technical assistance, and capacity building to address the harmful impacts of climate change. Egypt estimated the national climate action on mitigation and adaptation would require approximately $73 billion over the period of 2020 to 2030. It is also important to work on aligning the mandate of the financial sector, banking and non-banking, with Egypt's aspired transition to a more inclusive, green and resilient economy. To that end, it's useful to provide financial institutions with explicit incentives promoting sustainable and climate finance. As a key partner in implementing the financing of the National Development Agenda, COP27 is also an excellent opportunity for crowd and private investments, bringing in much-needed innovation and technology upgrading whenever commercially viable.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Rady. Now, Doctor, we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, talking about shifting into a green economy, and environmentally friendly industries and factories. First off, I mean, you've mentioned the Bimban wind plant, the Oil Mountain, the solar plant, the Oil Mountain wind plant, the excess in electricity that now we're having after establishing and building the three biggest electrical power plants in the world. Now, how easy or how quick can we transform all these industries, all these factories to being an eco-friendly industries and really going high up in the ranking in terms of green economies in the world? How can we translate all these assets that we have now into an actual practical implementation of it?
See, that's a question in which the whole world is asking, and that's a goal in which the whole world is seeking. But things aren't that easy, of course, because at the traditional look, for example, you look at the existing factories, and let's not go that far. You look at the buses that's running around in all of Cairo, all right? Definitely you can sense that the pollution rates are much higher, right? That's bad for the environment. So what do you want to do? You want to transfer to electric cars? All right, still too expensive. But what you do is gradual. In economics, people respond to incentives. So the government would start planning charging stations for electric cars, and let's build it all over. Now that the infrastructure is there and is encouraged, and it can be encouraged by, for example, lower taxes. Whoever is going to build such a station can, for the next 5 years, enjoy some tax exemptions. So people respond to incentives. And then comes the second one. When you import an electric car, you will be exempted from so many different types of custom duties. So then you make it cheaper to use an electrical car, and you provide the infrastructure. Now that takes time. You came over to plenty of the taxi drivers, for example, and the minibuses, and you said, as a government in here, let's all transfer to using natural gas. So now the amount of cars running on natural gas, and you see them with the recharging their tanks, is increasing gradually in Egypt, year after year, year after year. People found it much better, much cheaper to use natural gas. Taxi drivers, for example. And you want to do the same thing for new industries, because the cost of transforming the old might be too excessive for the owners and too bad for the economy. There is always a weight. Do you want to increase the costs to reach the green goals, or do you want production to keep on going to have a low unemployment? And in theory, in modern theory now, some people look at it and say, you know what, you can achieve both. You can go green and reduce some cost. In reality, it proves to be very hard. In theory, a lot of promising models encourage us to go and build a green economy, saying that the more you focus on green jobs, the more you focus on transferring to a green economy, the more you will create jobs, especially for that purpose. So it's not such an easy goal, but then you have to go gradual, you have to go slow, and you have to study the social cost and social benefit of every next move you take.
Dr. Rady, because we're running out of time, so in a minute or less, now we are anticipating the COP27 summit in November. Now, other than that, this is being quite a prestigious event to host here in Egypt and Sharm el-Sheikh, but what are concrete outcomes that Egypt would want to aim to achieve and get out of this summit?
The very first thing is that you want to relate to the whole world your deep commitment to a green environment and to transformation to a greener economy, and that you are a part of the whole world that is converging on those concepts and aiming to proceed much faster in it. The second, of course, is the network. Networking in such conferences is incredibly important. There will be a whole lot of opportunities to meet and learn what other countries are doing in this area. And you will be amazed to find how many different innovations, very useful ones, very relatively cheaper ones, that can help achieve such goals. So that would be probably one of the most important outcomes of such a thing. I'd be very optimistic when I say, and maybe you'll end up finding some donors, some funds that can help finance some of those projects.
Yes. Well, and on that hopeful note, as Dr. Rady has mentioned, the kind of national mega projects that are taking place, it's not just building concrete all around, but also a digital age, a green environment, a green economy. This is the direction that Egypt is going for right now. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Tamer Rady, head of the Faculty of Business at Ain Shams University. Dr. Rady, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Night International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.